Good morning. I'm Mark Allen with Gaper.io, and I'm here today with Pranav Sachdev of Glyph. Good morning, Pranav.
Hey, good morning to you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us today. So can you share a brief background of yourself and your work experience?
Sure, absolutely. So, I kind of did the traditional corporate jobs, worked in the investment bank at JP Morgan, did tech strategy consulting, worked on the Facebook ad bidding platform kind of from inception, and had worked in the ad tech space and got really, deep into consumer behavior on the internet. I think was really where my, the important was probably the important part of my early career.
Very interesting. So were you with JP Morgan in 2008 by chance?
Right after, still in the after, like I kind of got there in the aftermath, which was a poor career choice in retrospect. But I was coming out of college, so I didn't know any better.
Oh, and yeah, they work you guys to death. I know.
They sell it well, and I think I got some good work ethic out of that, if nothing else. But they sell that lifestyle well, and then you get there, and it's a little different. It's a little different.
Were you in New York at the time?
I was, yeah, I was.
It's a different lifestyle. Yep. So, what has been your experience with remote employment, both as an employee and employer?
What's great, and I think the whole world is kind of in our playing field now because we've always been that way. And my co-founder runs the manufacturing part of the business, so he's in China a lot of the time, he's in Asia a lot of the time. So we've been remote for a while, and I think it's great. I think it creates a lot of freedom for people and lets them live their lives the way they want to live them. It's just about having structure. I think structure is really important, and everybody has to set up their own structure to make sure they're productive and communicative with the team.
Yeah. So you have people obviously in Asia, and I assume you have people in different parts of the US. Is that correct?
Yeah, we have a pretty distributed team. Yeah, we have like some designers in different places, engineers in Asia. So wherever people are, we try and work with the best people that we can afford wherever they are.
Yeah, that's a great business model. More and more people are going to it. So what do you think is the future of remote employment, and what do you think can be done differently to make it better?
Well, I think it's definitely here to stay. Whether companies want it to be or not. I think it's going to be, especially with these tech companies that are so competitive in San Francisco, I think it's going to be part of the edge and something you kind of have to offer employees from here on out because people are going to get comfortable with it. And I think the big challenge is just making sure you're giving people that sense of community. And so that's going to involve, like flying people out, bringing them together once that becomes appropriate and safe. It's going to be finding ways to connect them virtually and keeping people on the same page. So like, I think especially for an early stage startup, it's all about like having people converge around one goal. And you just need to make sure you're all doing that regardless of where people are.
Yeah. And how long has Glyph been in business?
We've been around for about 2.5 years.
Okay. And when did you have your first product release?
We launched in October. So the beginning of the company was just on the ground in China, putting together the supply chain, doing a small test launch, but we really launched in October.
Oh, wow. Very good. So what is the story behind Glyph? What is your product? Who is your audience? All those things.
Yeah, absolutely. So Glyph is a direct-to-consumer shoe company. It's really about minimalism. So I became obsessed with this idea of, well, what if you had one pair of shoes? And I'd been a minimalist for my entire life, really through my grandfather. He was kind of one of those guys who I grew up around and would tell me like, hey, it's not really about the things you own. That's not tied to happiness. And he was right. And so I grew up that way. And, it also was living in New York, small apartment, was in grad school, didn't have a lot of money, crowded shoe rack, roommates. And I was like, man, it'd just be great if I had one pair of shoes on that shoe rack. This thing's a mess. And got really obsessed with that. And just like, this idea. And we thought like, wow, it'd be great if, we realized like shoes are really important in our culture. I think they're kind of like we define ourselves by our shoes. We judge each other by shoes. And we're like, wow, if we, maybe if we had a shoe that stood for minimalism, that could fit really well into people's lives. And it could, start to change, create a conversation around like why we own the things we do and what really makes us happy. So that's been our kind of the driving force behind us. Very
interesting. And any plans to branch out into different products that are geared towards minimalism?
Yeah, we'll get there. That's a good question. We'll get there. And there, there's definitely, that's stuff I think about when I'm falling asleep, how you can make a jacket between that would work like 35 to 80 degrees and stuff like that. There's a lot of great technical fabrics and new tech out there that would enable those kinds of products. So that's definitely in our future.
Yeah, cool. It's funny because you're a man after my heart. I have a pair of brown shoes and I have a pair of black shoes. And I remember once I was out at the mall with my wife, and she's, "Oh, these shoes would look really good on you." And I said, "But I already have a pair of black shoes. I need
There you
another
go.
one." Right. So I'm more along your lines. Like the less you own, the less it owns you. Right.
Yeah, yeah, you just get to be happy, and but we still want to make it like kind of fun for people, make the designs cool, make like you still need to feel good about what you're wearing and feel
Yes.
confident.
Yeah.
And so it's like striking that balance is where we love to play.
Well, as long as we're at it, why don't you give your URL just so everyone hears it?
Yeah, it's glyph.earth is the site.
GLY.
Glyph.earth.
All right, very good. So anybody that wants to get your shoes, they can go there. Cool.
Yes.
And so how did you incorporate the idea of remote at your company? It sounds like you started that way, but how do you start up like that?
Sorry, just with
Well,
what part
I
of
mean, most people, most companies they have a building and then they gradually go remote. You did the opposite. You
uh
started remote. How did you do that? I mean, and with people all over the world.
yeah, it's just out of necessity. I mean, it was just, we were on the road fundraising, going to factories. I just had to be that way. My co-founder, he's in China all the time. His wife's in Toronto. So it was a necessity.
Hmm.
It was just how things, we never like thought about it differently. And we never were paying for office space or anything like that. And so just kind of, for us, it was good. We feel like the whole world is kind of playing by our terms now in a lot of ways, where we've always had to be really scrappy and like, generate cash flow and also do things remotely. So we feel like people are playing on our terms now.
Yeah, it's amazing how much money you save when you don't have that added expense of an office. Right? You can apply it to different things like, really good talent.
Yeah, everything that's not, talent, product development, working capital drives me crazy. Like we try and not spend money on other things.
Mm-hmm. Well, right along the same concept of your minimalist, right?
Yeah. Reducing vendors is a good way to be minimalist for sure.
Yes, it is. So the current pandemic that we're all experiencing now forced everyone to go remote. The date in the Bay Area, as you know, was March 16th. Did that cause any roadblocks or challenges that you didn't expect?
Yeah, the pandemic, I mean, has altered every facet of our business. Some of things been negative, some have been positive. We were like right in the middle of fundraise when it happened, but luckily we had some great investors and got cash in the door to stabilize things before things got too bad. And then our factory stayed shut for a while. Now they're back open and things are slower, but we're back up and running and a new batch is coming out. And then but on the other side of things for us, I really try and focus on the positive for our business, which is that. So one, advertising costs plummeted around the web, and like we were using a lot of Facebook and Instagram, and those CPMS had been what were $20 were then $5 because airlines weren't advertising, banks weren't advertising, and it's a price marketplace, and so we were able to acquire customers much more cheaply. And I think another thing is, people are starting to go back outside again, but they're not going to retailers, and retailers are really unfortunately getting hurt, and a lot of retailers are going bankrupt.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that e-commerce is going to take a new position in our society, and we're well positioned to capitalize on that.
Mm. And have you ever thought of using brick and mortar retailers for your product? Or are you going to stay on the net?
Yeah, we had, and because that's something that probably still will happen, but just not as quickly now.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
But,
Yeah. So
that is a distribution channel for the future.
okay, cool. And so finally, there are companies like Gaper that help develop, build, and scale products, especially for startups like yours. It sounds like you're already bought into the idea, but how important do you think this will be in general going forward for all startups?
Yeah, I think that's important. I think now it's going to be about being nimble, being scrappy, being distributed, like more so than ever. I mean, this is the normal. Like this is it now. This is the world that we're in.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be changed. Different, it's going to be a different world when we come out of this. And I think when people come back, it's going to be a rush to get back into the office and then it's going to be like, hey, I really kind of like being home as much as I was. So I think it's going to be a nice little hybrid eventually.
That's right. I think flexibility is important, and like being there for a reason is going to be important, but I remember when I started my career and I was like doing strategy consulting, I'd fly across the country to go into some office, and I wasn't even doing work for that client half the time, but it was just all about like, whatever.
Yeah. No,
And I think that's going away.
I've flown across the country too for 1 hour meetings, and it's like, you basically lose either one full day in a really long day or 2 days if you do that
Yeah. Oh yeah. The productivity, all that goes down. Yeah.
for a 1 hour meeting. And now it's so common to just do it by Zoom.
I was watching this YouTube video the other day, and it was like this guy in the 70s, like early computer, and he was hypothesizing, like, if you're a business person in the future, you'll be able to work anywhere for your company because of the computer. And it's like, I was like, oh, it's kind of happening now. Like, finally, this is like a real thing. Like, this is good. I think this is so good. Like, it's good for like how our cities will be,
Yeah.
how free people will have freedom to be near their loved ones and have a good career, which I think for me has been a trade-off in my life a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the implications are good.
Yeah, I do too. It'll be interesting to see what happens to cities like San Francisco and New York, which now a lot of people move to because of the tech jobs.
Yeah, I think like, I already have some friends that are like getting out of here, and they're kind of, maybe, I don't know if I'll say that way, but they're making a San Francisco salary, but they moved to Austin.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good way to live.
That certainly is. Well, I think eventually the companies are going to adjust.
They're going to get wise to that. Yeah. Yeah.
But it's still, basically it's the same thing. You just don't have as expensive a house. Right. As you know, being in the Bay Area, what housing is like. So, well, Pranav, I want to thank you for your time today. Good luck with your product. I think I might be ordering a pair from you soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It was a blast.
All right. Thanks. Have a great day.